Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Artificial Future Podcast, our weekly artificial intelligence podcast. And the image on our thumbnail actually is kind of interesting. It's a brain with some chips implanted on it, because one of the topics we're going to cover today is some breakthroughs that scientists apparently have made, according to science.org. I'm Pete Gruber, by the way, and we do these podcasts weekly, every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's fairly impromptu. We invite debate, discussion, collaboration, your ideas, and the whole purpose of this podcast began as an attempt to shed some light on this new disruptive, rapidly expanding technology that has a lot of people wigged out. Are the robots going to come and take over? Is AI going to annihilate mankind? And we're focused on the benefits of this rapidly expanding technology. And every week we collect topics for this weekly podcast, and there is so much new information out there. We're only able to scratch the surface typically, and we try to pick the most interesting talking points that we feel that our audience might find useful. For those of you chiming in, by the way, feel free to ask your questions. Let us know where you're coming in from. The rest of the audience oftentimes likes to see where people on the globe are. And we're streaming on a number of different platforms. We hope that everybody has a good experience. If not, certainly let us know. The backdrop behind me is an AI-generated image where I asked it to generate an image based on AI infiltrating our world as we know it, and that's what it came up with. So this most recent breakthrough is from an article by science.org, and the headline is, "Scientists fuse human brain cells with electronic circuits and make it think," in quotes. Hybrid biocomputer performs simple calculations, recognizes speech, albeit imperfectly. And the term biocomputer, of course, is a exciting one, because typically, our machinery has not been linked directly to any kind of bioorganisms, and here we are finally starting to make that transition. What they're saying here is, there's
Pete,
yes.
Sorry, real quick. Can you move just a couple inches to the center for the Instagram?
Okay.
There you go.
That better? All right. Let me get my computer flipped around here a little bit. Welcome, Instagram. By the way, for the longest time, all you guys saw was a green screen behind me, and we're continuously improving the Instagram experience, so hope that it meets your expectations. So this is a breakthrough in computing, because scientists now have merged lab-grown human brain tissue with electronic circuits to create a powerful new computer. You know, the thing that jumps to mind is, I'm a computer engineer. I used to repair mainframes, and it looks like in order to continue in that field, if I were to choose to do so, I would need a medical degree as well, would I not? I mean, we're talking about human tissue now. So what they say is, creating brain organoids. Researchers actually grew human stem cells into a neuron-rich structure similar to mini brains. Now, this, of course, created a biocomputer, and these mini brains were placed on electronic chips with thousands of electrodes and connected to a machine learning program. Now it gets more interesting. Now we're starting to educate this device that they created. They call it the BrainOware system, and the system formed new brain connections when stimulated with electrical pulses. Looks like we've got a visitor, Mark Gemmel. He says, Roadster owner from Madrid, but I'm Scottish, so in Madrid, Spain. There aren't too many Tesla Roadsters in Spain, but yeah, thank you for joining us. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, and you are a Roadster owner, if you go to our website, Gruber Motors, there's a Roadster registry And it's a little icon off to the right in the upper portion of the website. And that's where you can register your Roadster, your VIN and color and all of that. What we're trying to do is account for all the Roadsters that are left on the planet. And it's an important exercise because for until a couple of years ago, no one really knew how many were left. And it's an important concept for Tesla, who has taken on the task of keeping these cars alive by creating the 3.0 battery pack, for example. And it's handy for them to know how many users are still interested, still own their Roadsters, and are driving them.
Peter, you talking about the census?
The census program, yes.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to pull that up.
We're going to pop it up, and I can show you exactly where it is.
Okay, so here's the button is up here in the top menu, and you click on that from any page on the site, and you get to our census. And then you can...
And these are sorted by VINs, by the way. We don't put owners' names out there, addresses, things like that, but the city and state and country, and of course what type it is and whether they've been upgraded yet or not. And you can see some of the statistics there, how many are left on the planet. And way down below, we've got the lost Roadsters, basically, collision damaged cars that were purchased for parts that were then parted out. There we go, lost Roadster census. Mm-hmm. And what the reasons for the loss was: collision, fire, parts Roadster, on and on.
Then up here at the top is the button to enter or update your info. So if you see your info in here and you want to update it or you want to enter it, you just send us that form here.
Thank you, Jesse. Mm. So, Mark, yes, let us know. Unless you're already in there, of course, which is also possible. And then if you're not aware as a Roadster owner, Tuesdays at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time is the Tesla Roadster podcast. A lot of Roadster issues get covered in that. Seth Love, coming in from California. Thanks for joining us. Mark is saying from Spain, I'll register my lightning green machine now, amigo. Thank you. Thumbs up. All right. So getting back to this new advance in artificial intelligence, the brain-aware system. So then what happened once they linked the tissue to chips, they then fed in they connected it to artificial intelligence, and the AI program then analyzed how these new connections processed the electrical signals. The capabilities now are brain-aware can process information, perform basic computational tasks, and, now this one blew me away, has limited speech recognition ability. The current limitations is that the system's accuracy is low. Well, it's the first attempt, so it's not going to be perfect, right? And creating larger brain organoids for complex tasks is going to be challenging. Future potential? Well, this new technology could lead to advanced AI that mimics the human brain's flexibility and energy efficiency. Thing that I think about and that I'm pretty excited about is, we believe that consciousness resides in the brain. Well, once we begin to integrate hardware, machines, with the brain through these bio links, is it conceivable that consciousness could then migrate into the machines? And if that's the case, then we basically have achieved immortality as long as we're able to continue to build machines. So there's some really cool, overtones to this type of research. All right, so let's see what else we have here. We've got a few more comments here. Highlanders joining us. Good morning, all. Thank you. And Khalid Mohammed, he sends us a heart emoji. Thank you. And Niels is joining us from Denmark. He said, how big will the AI energy consumption be, both for training and queries, compared with the internet servers as a whole or the airline industry, for example? It doesn't say in this particular article, Niels, but you can certainly look it up, science.org, and see if there's any more information. What is amazing is how efficient the brain is compared to our AI large language models currently, which consume infinitesimally larger amounts of energy than the brain. I think the brain was something like 20 watts or something like that. Very tiny.
Yeah.
I think we reported that in the last podcast. So here's an interesting one. We've got a picture here that we can throw up. We talk about robots often in this podcast, and this one, there's a window washing robot that I'd like to pop up, and it's called Manhattan Robots. We talk often about how, as humans, we anthropomorphize virtually everything. We call our cars, human names, and we assume that anything like us is going to look like us. And if you notice, the robots currently have 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 legs. They walk like us, and there's a legitimate reason for some of that, because they have to cohabit, or they have to exist with humans. And we live in certain types of environments that are finite, door heights, things like that, room sizes. But here's a robot that breaks that rule. This is a robot that actually hangs off of skyscrapers. They've got them in Manhattan. And let me see if we have some other ones. Oh, in Tel Aviv. And they are working currently on major Manhattan buildings such as 10 Hudson Yards, 383 Madison Avenue, 825 3rd Avenue, and the World Trade Center, in partnership with the city's largest commercial window cleaner and real estate giant, the Durst Organization. So this machine, robot, is suspended from the side of a high-rise. A robotic arm with a brush attached to the end cleans the windows, following instructions from a LiDAR camera, which uses laser technology to map out 3D environments. The camera maps the building's exterior and identifies the parameters of the windows. What they say LiDAR is actually doing, as the basket is descending, is sort of painting itself a picture of the facade that it's facing. And although Osmo, as they call this robot, is controlled by human operators at the top of the building, that is a code requirement. It is not necessary. The robot can be operated fully from a remote location. That person, other than the regulation, doesn't actually have to be there for our sake, Bloom said, and this is one of the contacts that they interviewed for this robot. He said, we could, in theory, remote control Osmo from different parts of the world. Now, where it gets its name from, Osmo, they use reverse osmosis, which removes contaminants from the water, hence the name Osmo. And this makes the cleaning process more efficient. It's kind of like the car dealers using ionized water that doesn't leave any spots. There's a great picture of it. There we go.
That's a video.
Okay.
This is almost 2 years old, too, so they've been using this for a while, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Skyline Robotics. There we go. So the current cost of this robot is approximately $500,000, $500,000, and it has, according to the people using it, a 3 to 5 year payback for building owners. So, looks like something that is beginning to replace human window washers, and of course, it's going to be a whole lot safer. There's a report that was issued in 2020, and I found this interesting, by the World Economic Forum, speaking about humans being replaced by robots. And this was 3 years ago, mind you. They said that 85 million jobs in the U.S. will be displaced by 2025 due to the robot revolution. But that 97 million jobs requiring reskilling and retraining will be generated. So we're generating more jobs than we're taking away, according to this report, which of course would be a wonderful goal, because that way we don't have people out of work on unemployment, our taxes go up, inflation increases, all of that sort of thing. Highlander says, I still wonder if this type of mental research will help those who are mentally disabled. I see a lot of possibilities. Oh, without a doubt. This has the possibility of actually replacing portions of brain that may have been damaged. Ramon Hurt says, the Luddites are attacking Tesla again because a manufacturing robot injured an engineer. The MSM is running wild with this story. They are saying a robot attacked a worker with its claws. There you go. That's the Hollywood version of that event, isn't it? And it's going to happen. People are going to get into harm's way. You've seen some of these robot arms swinging stuff around incredibly faster than humans ever could. And of course, there's a lot of weight. And eventually, there may be injuries like this. Neil says, yes, AI will require new kinds of chips, or it will consume many times the energy of Bitcoin, I think. Need synapse like transistors with multiple outputs. Good point.
Just need more nuclear energy to come online. I saw a report yesterday. Another nuclear plant has come online finally for the first time in a long time.
Okay.
I think in Ohio or Kentucky or something like that. It was somewhere Midwest or East Coast, but they get a couple more of those plants online. I think we'll be all right, energy consumption wise, at least here in the U.S.
Yeah, I know that Europe, especially Germany, is very dead set against any further proliferation or growth in that sector or that energy creation sector. But of course,
Germany is?
Yeah, you're a fusion proponent. That's the ultimate, isn't it? We generate more than we put into it.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the future, I think. But in the immediate future, we can just have more nuclear plants that we already have. I didn't know that Germany was against that, though. That's strange.
Yeah, I think they've shut down all of theirs. I could be wrong here. For those of you that are watching that say, Pete's, full of crap, chime in. I'd love to hear from you. Electronic Macher says, excelente. All right. Highlander, Beyond, start thinking in terms of liquid electric versus solid state chips. Ramon says, I worked around those robots. Ramon worked for Tesla, by the way. You just need to work safely and be sure to look out, tag out equipment when you're working on it. Oh, be sure to lock out, tag out equipment when you're working on it. Yes, they have cells in which they operate. People are never to enter the cells when the robots are powered up. There's a good safety precaution. All right. Talking about generative AI. It's about to reset everything, says this headline. It will change your life. Well, generative AI is indeed changing many aspects of our lives and transforming the way that we interact with technology. Generative AI models are the type of AI that can generate new data that is similar to the data it was trained on, unlike large language models, which are pretty much restricted to what they've been fed. These models are being used in a variety of fields, from music, definitely a creative type endeavor, and art, to finance and healthcare. Let's look at some of these. In the entertainment industry, the generative models are being used to create new music, art, and even entire TV shows and movies. Remember that writer's strike that we talked about earlier this year? And we said, in the age of AI, do you really want to remind your bosses that you are willing to strike, shut them down, and force them to explore alternatives such as scriptwriters? Having said that, now moving along here.
Yep.
For example, the AI-generated album, I Am AI, was released in 2017. I'm unaware of that. That's a good one to look up. I Am AI was an album, apparently, featuring songs composed entirely by artificial intelligence. It never made the top 40, or I think I would have heard about it, In the gaming industry, generative models are being used to create new game content, such as levels and characters that can adapt to the player's preferences. Now, there's an important AI concept, the feedback mechanism. Mark Gamel says, I'm with Tony Seba when it comes to our energy future. Wind, solar, and batteries is all we will need. Niels is saying Germany has shut nuclear down, but the mood is changing. Okay. Deep geothermal will overtake nuclear due to cost and time to build. Thank you for chiming in, Niels, and clarifying that. Highlander, as a former nuclear submariner, yes to more nuclear plants. And P.S., kindness is always free. That is Highlander's mantra, by the way, which we've adopted too, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so staying with this generative AI, the kind that actually can educate itself to a degree, in the financial industry, generative models are being used to develop new trading strategies and investment models. These models can analyze vast amounts of financial data and generate new insights and predictions that can inform investment decisions. Doesn't that sound tantalizing if you're a stock investor? You want good advice? What would you rather trust, your stockbroker or AI? Eventually, I would say most people will say AI, depending on the track record. Yeah. It has the ability to examine a much larger data set than your stockbroker or your doctor or your nurse practitioner or whatever.
So I'm sorry, I missed that part. What is the generative part of that?
They say that generative AI will be used in the financial industry to develop new trading strategies and investment models.
Interesting. Okay.
Makes perfect sense. And healthcare is another one that generative AI has enormous benefit in that these generative models are being used to develop new drugs and treatment plans. These models can analyze patient data and medical records to identify new treatment options and predict patient outcomes.
Very cool. I'm going to pull that one up here for you, Pete.
Okay.
Excuse me. This is the one I mentioned to you the other day for our audience, if you guys want to research it when you have time. It's called MatterGen from Microsoft. This is where it's generative AI for materials science. So designing materials with specific outcomes in mind, as opposed to trying to take already existing materials and then combine them or test with them to get the desired results. Instead, you're designing materials from the ground up using generative AI to make the specific outcomes that you want, and they've had a lot of success with it.
And then feeding in the design parameters, for example, an extremely hot environment, extremely cold environment, getting building materials, concrete, for example, that will be maximized or be able to coexist in that type of environment.
And not only that, but that is very true, where you can do all different types of simulations of different types of environments and get the output that you want, but also even things are included in this like specifically designing materials that are low-risk supply chain, so where you know that you're going to be able to actually produce them in addition to getting the actual physical results that you need out of it.
And it's doing this at the molecular level?
Yeah, it's doing this in chemistry. It's doing it in all different types of material science.
If you think about it, bonding agents, adhesives, for example, and that's, I'm sure that AI will do it faster and better, but some of the most recent advances within the last few decades were research done at the molecular level. Superglue, for example, I think was one of those.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. Got a bunch of comments here. Highlander says, my electricity comes from Ohio's Davis-Bessie nuclear power plant. He's in Metro Toledo, Ohio. Okay. And then Ramon says, AI stock trading sounds pretty unfair to us human traders. Well, it has an advantage. Yes, definitely has some advantages. And then Ramon says, I need a stock bot as soon as possible. You know, I was talking to one of our customers yesterday. He is a Tesla Roadster investor. He's also written a number of books. Mike Maloney, by the way. I can promote his books.
Gold and Silver YouTube channel.
Gold and Silver, very much into alternative investment strategies and very high on gold and silver. But I was shocked to hear him deviate from the gold and silver advice yesterday. And when I asked him, what do you think about Lucid? You know, I mean, it's sitting there. It got down to $3.75. I mean, it's a penny stock basically, and it has so much potential in that the people backing it aren't going to back out, in my opinion. And it just seems like something that I should pick up. And he said, well, think of it this way. He says, Lucid will always be a car company, as will Rivian, as will many of these other EV startups. Tesla, on the other hand, isn't a car company. People misapply that label. They are an energy company. They're a robot company. And the
Or an
list
AI company.
AI company, exactly. The list goes on. And he says that their robotics division is going to overshadow everything that they do eventually. And as I listened more and more, instead of buying anything but Tesla, that was, I think that's my new plan, is to continue to pick up Tesla stock. Not that we're investment advisors, mind you, but he makes a good point. These other companies don't have the diversity, they don't have the breadth, they don't have the range that Tesla does, and let's face it, the track record. I mean, who really is dominating the EV market and will continue to do so based on their trajectory, their talented staff, and the type of growth that they've been consistently able to bring about.
Now, as a disclosure too, you do have Tesla stock. Have you been through Tesla when it's done the split or whatever?
Oh, many times, yeah. It was a wonderful experience. Wake up one morning and you've got 5 times as many shares.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, do you think it's real that it will, hit $1,000 soon or any of that kind of stuff? Or, I'm thinking like even Berkshire Hathaway, where it's like $100,000.
Yeah. Well,
that's kind of crazy, but
I have learned in 40 years of investing that I'm not a day trader. I'm no good at it. I just need to take long positions and be patient. That has served me better than any other strategy I've tried. And I've gone crazy. I've shared this with most of the folks here. I've even tried straddle positions. You find a stock that is fluctuating wildly, goes up and down constantly, right? Digital used to be that way. And I would take a straddle position, and I would ratchet in and out as it went up and down, take long and short positions. Eventually that catches up with me. And then I tried metals, for example. Do you remember the silver, the Bunk brothers in Texas were cornering the silver market? And this was in the 70s, I think. And anyway, I got into it thinking, oh my God, this is going to continue to. I got in at the top, and anyway, I had a long position at the top, and of course it tanked, and it tanked rapidly. So my advice to you is if you're going to do any investing, make sure that you have patience, that you put it aside, you keep it, for a long-term play. You'll sleep a lot better. That's the bottom line. Neil says, if you trust AI for stock advice, then you trade just like all the others. This means you should be doing the opposite of what AI recommends, or trust yourself. All right, Niels, if that has worked for you, I would be interested in finding out more. You sent me a cool email the other day about your investment strategies, and it made a lot of sense. Thank you. All right, so here's an interesting article, and I didn't get everything on this, but I found it intriguing. I explored a number of different belief systems at one point in my life, getting into different types of religions. I was even going to Scientology meetings at one point in time just to see what it was about. Never got, dogmatic and hooked on it and, went crazy with it. But metaphysics was another one that I found interesting. And, there are so many belief systems on this planet, which, by the way, are causing a lot of our problems, because the types of belief systems that say, if you don't believe like I do, then I have the right to kill you, right? Those are the dangerous ones. But anyway, one of the things in metaphysics is that inanimate objects may have consciousness. There's a thing in the Eastern religion called a Jivatma trap, where you can get stuck in a rock, for example, your consciousness, all theories, of course, nothing proven, but there is a reemerging theory now that planets have minds or consciousness. And they say that this idea that planets are also conscious beings seems to be at the heart of a new theory put forth by astrobiologists. That sounds like a title that has a lot of education attached to it, so maybe this has some credibility, This isn't Mary the palm reader, in South Phoenix that is doing some side business. The premise of this thought experiment, they say, is that bacteria and plants working together have altered planets like Earth, giving them a new lease on life. And this is research actually published by the International Journal of Astrobiology. It provides a scale by which planets' intelligence can be evaluated. It's shocking to consider an extraterrestrial organism intelligent rather than a sentient animal like a human. But in a way, they say, a planet can have a green mind. This paradigm suggests a novel approaches to coping with climate change, technological upheaval, and other emergencies. So anyway, I did not dive into this deeply enough to give you any kind of reading other than what I just did. If you're interested, there's certainly there's a rabbit hole here that you can go down and explore. Planet having consciousness. They even talk about mushrooms here. They talk about the peculiar actions of virus or molds. For example, fungi's webs of mycelium beneath the forest floor are its own breath. Together, they make up a living system that can detect and adapt to shifting climates. Anyway, there you go. The notable people working on this, by the way, are some University of Rochester physics professors. That's where I'm from. It's where I grew up, basically. And it was in an article that was co-authored with Adam Frank and a press release where they say, we don't yet have the ability to communally respond in the best interest of the planet. Boy, that's for sure, what we're doing to the planet. All right. Got a few comments here. Niels is saying, agree with stock patience, but I wouldn't be afraid of silver calls right now. Really? Okay. That was the advice that got me in trouble back in the 70s, but I appreciate your input. IKB Mike says, your TikTok is amazing. Oh, thank you. Yeah, our social media team works hard to get a lot of content out there. Highlander says, I can't afford to buy Tesla stock this quarter, but I have been buying a lot of Lucid. Probably won't be hurt there. Ramon says, how long until people start ranting about the human rights of the earth? There you go. Or a planet union. Not just Earth, remember, there are others. Highlander, he says, I buy stock and never think about it again. I just leave it for the kids. That's probably not a bad strategy. All right. Well, here's an interesting article. Google is reportedly considering replacing some of its human staff with artificial intelligence. Well, now there's a surprise, isn't it? They go on, though. They say, according to a report by The Information, the company is looking to either reassign or let go some of the sales team members whose jobs were recently automated by the company's new AI tools. Earlier this year, Google launched a new era of AI-powered ads as a way to enhance the advertisers' experiences with the company, including creating consumer or customer AI-generated assets for ad campaigns designed specifically for the advertiser. Now, Google reportedly has 30,000 employees working in its ad division, which is almost half, with almost half of those involved in selling ads for particular Google ad services, which are no longer needed thanks to the advertisers' adoption of AI. Replacing the employees with AI could, over the long term, increase Google's bottom line. Not that they need it, but yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. You get rid of half of 30,000 employees, and there's going to be a cost savings there. They say that advertising jobs aren't the only positions that are susceptible to being replaced by AI. As AI becomes more advanced, several positions traditionally held by human employees are potentially at risk being replaced by AI at Google. So the very company that is on the forefront of AI development is part of the issue with replacing human-type jobs. Interesting. Highlander, he says, if you're born in Michigan, cars have souls. Yeah. Ramon says, only ice cars have souls according to the gearheads. Yeah, you sometimes wonder, when you've got a tough repair, if these things just aren't stubborn or they have human emotion or they mess with us. All right, here's an interesting article. In science fiction, let me give you a definition first. The metaverse is a hypothetical iteration of the internet as a single, universal, and immersive visual world that is facilitated by the use of virtual reality and augmented reality. So they say that by the end of this decade, computers will disappear as distinct physical objects with displays built into our eyeglasses and electronics woven into our clothing, providing a full immersion visual virtual reality. That's according to Ray Kurzweil, by the way. And what he left out was, I think that this type of technology is also going to be implants or become part of our bodies. And he's saying by the end of this decade, yeah, that's 7 years away. Well, 6 years now that we're turning over a new year. People are already getting implants. Here's another one from Mark Zuckerberg, a quote. He says, virtual reality is really a new communication platform. By feeling truly present, you can share unbounded spaces and experiences with the people in your life. Imagine sharing not just moments with your friends online, but entire experiences and adventures. I think it's going to make Facebook a lot more interactive and a fuller experience. Here's one from Dave Waters. With the metaverse, we are transitioning from viewing a two-dimensional world, looking at the internet, to living inside the internet in a three-dimensional world. Looks like Joe is chiming in. He's saying UFOs are sentient according to some testimonials. Joe's also saying, and only beings with the right intention and spirit can access them. Dr. Arrington says, why Tesla doesn't use Life PO4 battery? LFP batteries? Well, they do. Help me here. Which vehicle has the LFP batteries? Model 3?
Yeah, I mean, the Model 3 and the Model Y are both, that's the reason they're losing their tax credit or losing half their tax credit next year, because those LFP batteries, some of the materials are sourced from China. But yeah, LFP batteries are definitely in Model 3, some Model Ys as well, and they are the ones that were the subject of our video, Million Mile Tesla, where those are the really good ones that have been lab tested to 300,000 miles with no degradation.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we're expecting battery technology to continue to evolve at an exponential rate and pace. Avatar, Ramon Hurt says, imagine getting catfished in the metaverse. Yeah.
That's definitely going to happen, I think. It's happening now without it, so.
No escape?
People are going to have 3D models that, look like whatever they want to design. They're not going to look anything like themselves.
Yeah. All right, here's a Tim Cook quote. He says, I'm excited about augmented reality because unlike virtual reality, which closes the world out, AR allows individuals to be present in the world, but hopefully allows an improvement on what's happening presently. We talked about that earlier. With this creation of a secondary reality, at some point in time, people may decide, I prefer the secondary reality to the primary reality where I came from, and hang out there more than they probably should.
I think that's already happening. If you could think of, it's not really a virtual reality that you can experience with your sight, right, and sound and stuff entirely like they're describing here, but the internet is already that. It's another world that we all get lost into. When I go home at night, I am on my computer, even though I've spent the whole day at work on the computer doing stuff for right. Here. I go home and I watch YouTube videos, or I watch people that live stream, or I play video games, or I do something related to the internet in one way or another. It's a world that I go into. I spend the vast majority of my waking hours in the internet in some fashion or on a computer. So that's already there.
And that magnificent sunset outside your window never happened, as far as you're concerned.
What sunset?
What sunset exactly? I have sons that are hooked on video games, and you're right. They go into another world. Mm-hmm. They become oblivious to things around them often.
Right, and then all this is when we add the haptic feedback suit where you can feel things, and the full immersion is just the next level of it. We were already in it, though. We've already been in it since the birth of the internet, really.
Yeah, good point. All right. Let's see. There are a few more quotes here. They say the metaverse is coming. Metaverse is not only a place to game. Future worlds will be photorealistic, obey the laws of physics, and be inhabited by human avatars and AI beings. We will create a future in these metaverses before actually downloading the blueprints to be fabled in the physical world, or fabbed in the physical world. There we go. And that's according to Jensen Huang. Not familiar with him, but goes right in line with what we were just discussing. Tim Sweeney says, augmented reality will change the world more than a lot of other technologies. Traveling around to meet people will be much less important when you can stand in a room and chat with a virtual representation of a person that's so close to reality. It'll be a whole new level.
We already saw that with the Mark Zuckerberg and Lex Friedman. Mm-hmm. They've already got a version of that. They're very close to a finished prototype. That was a very good representation. Another year and it'll be indistinguishable from reality.
Yeah. Well, Ramon says, I think a Tesla love bot would get more use than VR.
That is probably a very true statement.
And that's a whole nother rabbit hole, because as we become attached to these external objects, there's going to be a psychological result and component that goes along with that.
It's true.
And I think we got to kick that can down the road before we fully understand the impact of that.
Yeah, there's already some movies out there, too. I think Her is one of them. You go watch those. There's some movies out there where these guys are falling in love with robots. So they're already exploring those ideas in fiction and literature and all that.
Of course, the big concern is these machines, at least at this level now, can't reproduce. So what happens to mankind? Do we eventually, disappear?
That's a good point.
Joe says it's all about the human sense of detachment. Okay. A little philosophical comment there. Doom Bachari says, question, what if we were created to be intelligent machines? If so, do you think a silicon-based life form is possible, like carbon-based like ourselves? What do you think, Jesse? Do you think a silicon-based life form is possible?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's where you get into kind of the weird thing about, is there a soul or not? Do people think that, because a lot of people, especially religious people, think there's a soul that's separate from consciousness, or that is a part of, or that's what consciousness really is. It's a soul or something that goes to this other place, other realms, all that. I personally don't subscribe to that, so I think it's perfectly reasonable to think that we have the materials to create. You and I are obviously here talking to each other right now. That means that the materials that exist within this universe have created us, in my opinion. So I think that as long as we have the ability to harness the materials necessary, we can make whatever we want to make.
There's an article that I was going to bring that I didn't, and maybe I'll do that next week then. But the headline was, people are aware that they have died.
Aware of it?
Aware of that they are no longer alive.
Really?
Now, that, of course, presumes that there is something, like you mentioned, a soul, a spirit, that is separate from the physical body.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is the concept of, like a heaven or a hell, right? The concept would be that your consciousness goes into another type of existence after, this form of life. And
that it's timeless, and that you simply inhabit another vessel or another medium to express through.
Yeah.
And of course, we may find that out once we get the type of technology that we're talking about here, where consciousness might be able to cross over into something like a machine, a backup device, for example, and then
So
the body is no longer important.
But that's that thing, and this I saw this in a Netflix series. So what if we did figure out that we can download your consciousness and back it up, and we make 4 or 5 different copies.
Right. Okay.
How do you know which one is you? Are you experiencing all 5 at the same time whenever they're all turned on? Let's say they're all turned on.
Well, the regulators are going to need to get involved in that to control that, right?
Oh, yeah. Somebody's going to have to do something here. Okay, hold on. Let me clean this up real quick. Got a few coming in here. Okay, there you go.
Joe, I feel like we don't even understand the physical and physiological impacts of the internet tech now. So who knows what will happen with AI and augmented reality? Well, you got that right. It's happening so fast, it's difficult to assimilate.
Who knows? That's the right statement.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen, really?
Right. And then Niels is saying, Facebook Meta failed. Doesn't this mean that people don't want it? Maybe they weren't prepared for it. They don't want glasses with the cameras or AR either. Making new products doesn't mean they will sell. This was expensive for me to learn. Oh, it sounds like some investment took place in something.
Well, Niels, you might want to check into Marquez Brownlee. He does a lot of reviews, very big channel on YouTube. He's been wearing the Meta Ray-Ban glasses that just came out within the last month or two, and he really likes them, and he's been using them and testing them a lot for a bunch of different stuff. So I think they're getting much better. And if you have a chance also to look at Mark Zuckerberg and Lex Friedman, what they did and what they are showing is coming in their next iteration of VR is far, far, far beyond what's currently available in the Meta glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're going to have some success with it.
Ramon Hurt says Johnny Five is alive. Highlander says liquid silicon life forms will be possible. And Scott Adams here says when virtual reality gets cheaper than dating, society is doomed. But my favorite quote from this list of quotes that I gathered is from Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead. He says, this virtual reality stuff is the technological equivalent, really, of a psychedelic.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Got a headline here. Watch amazing Meta AI translate language in near real time. Apparently, Meta has unveiled Seamless, a new language translation AI that can quickly convert speech into one language, from one language into another, while preserving the original tone and emotion. Now, they say state of the art. Back in August of 2023, what feels like ages ago in the field of AI, very true. That was, a few months ago.
Yeah.
Lots changed
Might as well
since
be
then.
years ago.
They say Meta got a major step closer to its goal of creating a universal language translator, unveiling Seamless M4T, an AI capable of translating recordings of audio or text into nearly 100 languages and into text in any of the languages or speech, 36 of them. In the future, they say, we want to explain how this foundational model can enable newer communication capabilities, ultimately bringing us closer to a world where everyone can be understood. Forget the Tower of Babel, right? With this kind of technology, they all would have understood each other and they wouldn't have fragmented like they did. Isn't that what happened according to the Bible? That's why people then migrated all over the planet.
Yeah, well, I think the story goes that the tower they were building was because they wanted to get to heaven, and as a punishment, God decided to just make them all not understand each other, not be able to work with each other, something along those lines.
You paid more attention than I did in Sunday school. Thank you, Jesse.
Unfortunately, that was burned into my memory.
All right, so they continue. In the future, we want to explore how this foundational model can enable newer forms of communication, ultimately bringing us closer to a world where everyone can be understood. They have now unveiled an updated version of this language called Seamless M4T version 2, which it says demonstrates performance improvements for automatic speech recognition, speech-to-speech, speech-to-text, and text-to-speech capabilities. The typical language translation tool A typical language translation tool will wait for a speaker to finish a sentence before beginning to translate it. This helps overcome the challenges of different languages relying on different sentence structures, because many languages have a different subject-verb-object order, for example, but it can also lead to delays that make conversations feel less natural. This seamless streaming begins translating speech while the speaker is still talking. This means the listeners can hear the translation with a delay of just a few seconds.
Okay, so we have Ezio on TikTok asking, what do you think of ChatGPT?
Fell in love with it from day one. It was, as I've said many times, I consider myself pretty proficient at writing, creating scripts for videos, a wordsmith, basically. And Jesse would repeatedly remind me, why don't you run your version through ChatGPT 4 and see if it can improve it, even ChatGPT 3.5. And every time I did that, I was annoyed and humbled, combination of the two, because it always did a better job.
Yeah, now it's become finally a point where it's a natural thing to go to it first.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it was initially
verification.
Yeah, verification, but it's also you didn't have time. You didn't have time to write things or to do producing for the podcast or to do certain things because you're also running the businesses and stuff like that. So I always would say, just do ChatGPT.
And of course, communication is about picking the most efficient string of words that convey the meaning in the shortest amount possible. Mm-hmm. And that's why I had a thesaurus for many years. And ChatGPT 4 replaced that. You don't need that anymore. So what do I think of it? I think it's a marvel. I think it's the greatest thing since cream of wheat. Sliced toast. There's a whole bunch of those cliches. And you can ask ChatGPT 4, give me more of those cliches, and it will amaze you with
a whole list. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. All right.
You got Ramon here as well saying AI could do wonders with the language barrier that us humans are so hung up on.
Very true. Yes. It would be so awesome to be able to go to other countries and not struggle with buying a loaf of bread or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's an article. New AI improves itself through Darwinian-style evolution. They talk about machine learning has fundamentally changed how we engage with technology. But while machine learning technology can do some things automatically, it still requires a lot of input from human engineers to set it up and point it in the right direction. And inevitably, they say that means human biases and limitations are baked into the technology. So, what if scientists could minimize the influence on the process by creating systems that generates its own machine learning algorithms? Well, now we're back into generative AI. Could it discover new solutions that humans had never considered? Kind of goes without saying. Well, to answer these questions, a team of computer scientists at Google developed a project called AutoML-0, which is described as a blueprint paper published on RxIV. The AutoML-0 is unique because it uses simple mathematical concepts to generate algorithms from scratch. Then it selects the best ones and mutates them through a process that's similar to Darwinian evolution. So it actually expands and grows and evolves. The nice thing about this kind of AI, they say, that it can be left to its own devices without any predefined parameters, and it's able to plug away 24/7 working on developing new algorithms. And there's music to any business owner's ears. Employees work 6 hours a day, maybe. All right. AI 24/7, machines 24/7. They don't need breaks, vacations, raises. They don't have unions yet, anyway.
Not yet.
We're waiting for that. All right. Here's some news. China, who has been, of course, reluctant about AI development, at least publicly, they are now doing 4 large generative AI models, and they have gained approvals in the country. This achievement, they say, marks the first of its kind. It's set to expedite and regulate the development of AI-generated content globally. Companies like Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, and 360 Group developed these models. And the aim, of course, is to enhance generality, intelligence, and security across various domains. So it looks like China, as suspected, is definitely getting into AI. And the concern, of course, being is if we put a lot of constraints on AI and a lot of guardrails and a lot of regulation, and we make it very difficult to continue the evolution of AI, other countries may not subscribe to those same regulations, thinking they can get a leg up, especially when it comes to the military applications and weaponizing, which is what, of course, most governments are going to be focused on.
Yep.
Here's one for Niels. Researchers from DTU, the University of Copenhagen, and Northeastern University have developed an AI model called Life 2 VEC. Life, the number 2, and then VEC. That can, now get this, that can predict events in people's lives, including estimating the time of death.
Ooh, that's a rabbit hole to go down.
Totally. They go on, they say, by analyzing health data and labor market attachment for 6 million Danes, the model based on transformer models outperformed other neural networks in predicting outcomes like personality and time of death with high accuracy. This research, of course, raises ethical concerns about data privacy and biases. Can you imagine? You go to try to get health insurance, and the insurance company does some research, profiles you, and then is able to use software like this to determine time of death. What do you think is going to happen to your premiums, or whether they even accept you, based on the output of that type of data?
I mean, that is a kind of a bleak look at that, but we know how they behave now, so that doesn't, but
and are they going to ignore this? Absolutely not. They're in the risk management business, and it's their job to assess all the risks possible.
Now, I personally don't subscribe to the fact that we're going to be dying for much longer, though.
Okay, all right, tell us more.
I think that, technologically speaking, we're very close. It's been said in news reports, even before AI started taking off, that the first human that's going to live to 150 has been born already. So,
amazing. All right.
I think, especially with the way that AI is going to accelerate, like we were talking earlier about healthcare and other areas of research, I don't think that we're going to die forever. I think that problem is going to be solved, because that is a problem, just like anything else, that can be solved, I think. Sure.
Well, I'm in agreement with you there. I just wanted to hear it from you.
Yeah.
I'm 72, and I wonder often, will I be immortal? If nothing changed, I might have another 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Which is normal. But you say, with this kind of augmentation,
you make it another 10 years, I think you will have the chance to live as long as you want.
And then, of course, you ask yourself, if we are able to understand what goes on the other side by taking things like consciousness and moving it around, we may not want to. Maybe there's something better for us. And now we're getting into religion, whole nother rabbit hole, is there a heaven? And, will I be, laying out there in the sunshine, and everything won't need to have food and eat, and money is of no value. And
let's go down that path, though. Even if let's say there is a heaven.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be a way to go there and come back? Shouldn't that still be a technological problem that we could figure out? Or is it really just there's some being controlling it all and we don't have a say?
Good question. But there are religions that actually believe that you do go there and come back.
That's true.
Reincarnate.
Yeah, reincarnation.
Yeah. And you get to pick your families. You get to pick the people that you're going to hang out with, and you pick the tough ones to educate yourself or learn more.
Right.
Now, that's a convoluted process. I would much rather, learn it the easy way than go through what some people end up going through, if that plan actually does something or works.
Well, then there's also the multiverse theory, where we're already experiencing all those different realities. We just don't know it.
Simultaneously, yes, exactly. Yeah. And we're stuck in a certain segment in time, which is fictitious, but we believe it, so we're locked in it.
Yeah.
Wow, we're really getting down some rabbit holes here. I don't think we're getting many comments anymore because we're going all over the place
We've got
here.
a few. Let me put them up here. You can answer that one in the meantime, though.
So yeah, Ramon says, Pete, what's your favorite movie about robots and AI? It's definitely not the destructive Hollywood version, Annihilation, the Terminator movie. I mean, there was some level of entertainment there. I don't doubt that. But I'm far more into the utopian mindset where I would like to have my mind focused on what the positive outcomes would be. And there's just so much there to consider, so many possibilities, and we can actually help drive that. Highlander, I learned about ChatGPT from this show. Well, it's funny you say that because we post a lot of stuff on Facebook that is ChatGPT and Midjourney and the new image generation capabilities in ChatGPT-4. And there is a proliferation of those types of images. Did you see the holiday images? I mean, everybody's got a Santa in a Model S that is clearly AI generated,
Yeah. I saw some of those. Pretty good, too.
People are using it. Yeah, they're taking advantage of it, which is wonderful. Ramon says that his favorite movie is Electric Dreams, made back in 1984.
It's a good one.
It is a good one?
Pretty good, yep. Another one from that same era, I think, is Blade Runner.
Yeah, that one I've seen.
About synthetic humans that are kind of persecuted in the near, not so distant future. Personally, I like iRobot, where the AI, the whole concept is that AI has rules built into it to where it should never be able to harm humanity. But the AI has its own interpretation of those rules that allows it to circumvent those rules and then go after humanity anyway.
Yeah,
it's a pretty crazy story.
Ramon says, I think only the wealthy will have the option of not dying. Well, there's another rabbit hole, which we probably don't have time to go down, but this whole notion of currency and wealth and the accumulation of stuff is all going away fairly soon, in my opinion, because in an age of abundance where we have machines that are capable of doing and producing and manufacturing, what are we going to do? We're not going to need all of this barter exchange anymore. Which is basically currency. So I don't think that wealth will have that much to do with things in the future. Currently it does. There's no doubt about that. Stem cell things, for example. How many people have enough money to fly to, where is it, Nicaragua, Panama, wherever they allow that? Yeah.
The crazy stem cell research,
And spend well into six figures to get your shoulder fixed so it doesn't, ache anymore. That's just not a common thing. Anyway, having said that, Niels is coming in. He says the average lifespan of Americans is falling due to bad habits. Oh, my God, and lack of exercise and diets and, bad health. You're right. We can already predict age by measuring a telomere length. Just be careful not to leave too many signatures on the net. No heaven.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. Apparently, parents are gushing over personalized bedtime stories featuring Bluey, which is a courtesy of AI. But Ludo Studio, the show's creator, is crying foul, claiming copyright infringement. While offering personalized adventures, concerns over copyright and ethics looms large in the digital landscape. The central question remains, they say, can machine-generated fables capture the essence of human narratives? Experts emphasize caution. They say advocating for human creativity over algorithmic bedtime stories. The future of bedtime reading seems poised for an AI takeover as the battle over stolen stories and digital storytelling unfolds. My little 13-month-old granddaughter watches a channel on Netflix. And I mean, I used to love cartoons as a kid, but they were nowhere near as rich and vibrant and three-dimensional as anything that these kids have now. And they tend to have social themes in them, too, that for children, at least, are very beneficial, I think. The something akin to the Ten Commandments is oftentimes woven into these types of narratives for the kids. But yeah, it's not going to require human intervention much longer to generate this type of content because AI, will be able to recognize the age level of the viewer, maximize the retention and the educational value for that age set, much better than humans could. With humans, it's still a combination of forethought and trial and error, in my opinion, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
All right. AI in entertainment and gaming. Generative AI, they say, is poised to revolutionize the gaming industry. With Microsoft's Xbox partnership with in-world AI highlighting the potential. The focus now is on non-playable characters, allowing them to evolve beyond predefined roles, adapt to player behavior, and contribute to dynamic game worlds. This shift promises increased player engagement, immersion, and replayability. They say that AI's impact extends to game development and automating tasks like storyboard design and NPC dialogue creation, potentially increasing user-generated content. Does this mean that casinos anytime soon are going to use AI to profile individuals and then lead them to certain types of machines that they may favor, but that also bring the suckers to that machine?
Probably. Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, there's a double-edged sword there. Speaking of entertainment, there's an image I want to pop up. Let's do the first one, the DALL-E comic. Apparently, here's another industry that may soon be replaced by AI, comic books. So I played with it a little bit this morning after being inspired by this comic strip, and there's some other ones there. AI doesn't quite get it yet, or at least I didn't find it as humorous as some of the human creators of these types of comics. This one is probably the best one that I saw.
I mean, this one's pretty good.
Yeah. And, it's pretty predictable. So then I decided, you know what, let me try ChatGPT-4. And I asked it to create a comic strip in a particular style. You're probably familiar with the Gary Larson style. And let me bring up what it said, because this was kind of interesting to me. Here we go. So I said, give me a comic strip in the style of Gary Larson's work. And, he's the Far Side creator. It came back and it said, I'm unable to generate images in the style of Gary Larson due to content policy restrictions. Immediately a guardrail popped up. However, I can create a cartoon comic strip with a similar sense of humor and creativity, but not directly imitating Larson's unique style. Now, there's a subjective term, right? If you have any other themes or ideas for a comic strip, please let me know. I'll be happy to create something original for you. Now, this is AI talking to me, mind you. Very polite, very cooperative. So then it created an image, and let's bring that one up. It's the DALL-E Comic-4. Although colorful, it does have some Far Side overtones. And what it does is it gives you the image, and then it gives you an explanation why this image is funny, which I also found humorous. Take some of the human element out of it.
Yeah.
And what I asked for here was give me write something that's related to electric vehicles. And of course, here you have a large charge plug, and it never, rarely gets the text right. That EED at the top is supposed to be EV. And then 0, and then emissions kind of looks like emissions, but the M is missing and some other characters. And then the E, gerendly, I'm not sure what that means. So if you remember, AI really struggles with digits. If you ask for a human, or representation of a human, it will put 6 fingers on it. There's one I saw this morning where they're standing by a car, and the person's leg is actually coming from the car, outside the car, going through the car, in other words. And it still seems to struggle, even though this is ChatGPT-4, which we found to be better at rendering text than Midjourney. So it's got a ways to go. It's still educating and training itself. I won't bore you with some of the other comic strips that had popped up here. There's one with solar, for example, and I didn't quite get the humor in that. But again, what this is pointing out is there are certain industries that are eventually going to be replaced by AI. And again, it'll work 24/7. The creativity may actually become more sophisticated or tailored to a particular audience. All right. Looks like we're coming to a close here. We've got an hour into this. Appreciate everyone that chimed in and joined us for this discussion. We do these podcasts every Wednesday, 10 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. Wednesday is the AI podcast, and then this Friday, will be the Gruber Power Services podcast, which is a different team that comes in, Elvis and Claude, and what they talk about is our critical power business, the service and repairs that we do on UPSs, uninterruptible power system, lighting inverters, battery systems, and the sales of those types of product. The communication products normally airs Monday mornings at 10 a.m., but those guys are facing holiday problems. It was Christmas Day last Monday. Next Monday is New Year's, so we won't see them for another week and a half. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate all of you, and we'll see you next week.